Hello everyone and welcome. This is an English lesson for the third grade high school students. Today we are going to revise what we have learned about cultural heritage and environmentally friendly tourism. For this lesson, you will need your notebook, something to write with, and a smartphone or a laptop with internet connection. In order to do some exercises, you will have to pause the video. When you see the pause button on the screen, it will be your signal to pause the recording in order to do some exercises. In today's lesson, you are going to name positive and negative aspects of tourism, make a list of rules for ecologically responsible tourists. You will also analyze tangible and intangible cultural heritage of York, Novi Dvor and Zaprešić, and your own town. And last but not least, you will create a souvenir for your town. It is going to be a bookmark with a text, video, or audio QR code. As you can see, there are a lot of things to do. So shall we start? Croatia is a country where tourism plays an important role, as we have already said. One could even say essential. I would like you to think of all the good things and all the bad things we associate with tourism. What are the advantages and disadvantages of being a tourist country? Think about it a little bit and then make notes into your notebook. But before that, pause the video. Let's compare our ideas. Tourism is beneficial because it brings money, both to the people working in tourism industry as well to the country itself. Because of the money, we are able to build roads, airports, and other things. We can also protect our natural and cultural heritage. There are also new job openings because of tourism. Not to forget, we meet people from different cultures, which allows us to grow. And last but not least, tourist destinations are recognizable all over the world. However, there are some drawbacks. It is not good for any country to depend on tourism for income because some unexpected things can happen, like the coronavirus. And although there are many job opportunities connected with tourism, they are mostly seasonal. Furthermore, too many tourists can damage the sites. We are witnesses of some sites being taken from UNESCO's World Heritage List because they have been devastated by tourists. Moreover, a great number of tourists want to see certain traditions. They tend to exploit local people. One could even say they impose themselves on the locals. And last but not least, there are serious problems with all kinds of pollution because of tourism. Since tourism plays an important role in the world's economy, but at the same time, it causes a lot of problems, we have to think about what we, as ordinary tourists, can do about it. What do we have to keep in mind when planning our trip as responsible tourists? To make this exercise more realistic, first decide on the destination and then think about the following. What can we as tourists do to protect natural and cultural heritage as well as the environment? Also, think about your accommodation. What kind of places are you going to stay in? What will you pay attention to? Furthermore, transportation is seen as a serious problem in tourism. How can you reduce your carbon footprint while traveling? What about food and local community? Where should you buy your food, and how can you help local community? Make notes into your notebook. These words can help you express your ideas. Use at least 6 of these words in your sentences. If you can do better, go for it. After you finish, check your writing with your virtual classroom teacher. You should pause the video now. Our next activity is connected with York. I'm sure many of you would love to visit York. I know I would. Those of you who have done one of the previous activities in the lessons before will revise what they have learned about York. For others, it is going to be an interesting visit to York. Watch the video and while watching, do the multiple choice exercise. You can pause the video here and copy the bit.ly link York puzzle or just scan the code. You have seen many things that make York attractive to tourists. How many can you remember? Which of them belong to tangible, material, and which to intangible, immaterial cultural heritage? Make notes. You can pause the video here. I'm sure you remembered most of the examples. Let's compare our lists. Have you remembered your Castle Museum and your Viking Center? What about York Minster and Clifford Tower? And intangible cultural heritage? Traditional green tea sounds great, as well as Yorkshire pudding wraps. York is also the town which invented the ghost walks. Besides York, in the last couple of lessons you did some exercises connected with Novi Dvori and Ban Josip Jelačić. This is a video about Novi Dvori created by students just like you with no professional equipment. Your task is to note down the examples of intangible and tangible cultural heritage while watching the video. You may pause the video now and copy the bit.ly link Novi Dvori or just scan the code. These are examples of tangible cultural heritage mentioned in the video: Novi Dvori Castle, the Chapel of St. Joseph, Skurieni Museum, Vršilnica, and Jelačić tomb. If you happen to visit Novi Dvori one day, you will also learn about its intangible cultural heritage, like the dishes prepared in Novi Dvori Castle, as well as about traditional costumes and ballroom dancing from the time of Ban Josip Jelačić. This is our final activity. You will design a bookmark. In order to do that, you will need to text about your town or historical figure you have prepared in one of the previous lessons. If you haven't done that, don't worry. You still have time. Just keep these rules in mind. The text should be 200 words long. The organization is also important. You have to have 3 parts: introduction, body, and conclusion. And don't forget to connect your ideas with linking words. If you have chosen to write about your town, mention different tourist attractions, activities tourists can do, places they can stay at, or have a nice meal. Also, don't forget to mention how they can get around your town. If you decide to write about a historical figure, there is one more rule that you have to bear in mind. You should use past tenses. you should use at least 3 different tenses to talk about past. Besides writing texts, you can also record yourself presenting your town or a historical figure from your area. Of course, you will also need photos, preferably your own. If you don't have them, use these 2 web pages for free images. All the information you want to present, you will do with the help of QR codes. You will turn your texts and recordings into QR codes. If you choose texts, make them short, maybe a fun fact or a short piece of information. But if you have written some very interesting text which you would like to use, what then? There are 2 things that can be done. You can turn the text into a picture using print screen and paint, then upload it into Google Drive or somewhere else where you can get URL, and that's it. URLs are easily transformed into QR codes. You can see an example of a text turned into QR code if you scan this code. Another way of turning your text into URL is recording yourself narrating the text. You can do it with Buckaroo. You again get URL for it. After you turn all the materials into QR codes, upload them together with all the pictures you will need into Canva and design your bookmark. You may pause the video now. Congratulations! You have created a souvenir for your town. I bet it feels pretty amazing. And in the end, let's see what you have done today. Have you made notes about positive and negative aspects of tourism, as well as the list of rules for responsible tourists? Have you done exercises connected with York and Novi Dvori? What about QR codes for the text or audio or video? And finally, have you designed a bookmark? If you haven't managed to do all these things, don't worry, you still have time. This is it. This is the end of our last lesson about cultural heritage. I hope you had fun. Thank you for taking part in it. Goodbye and see you.